So a couple of weeks ago, I was called an effing P word. Now I don't think I could say these words on YouTube because it might get this video, shadow banned or something. But what happened was a couple of weeks ago, I was walking down my local high street, which I walk down almost every day and feel completely safe. But on this particular day, I could see this man walking directly to me, and I kept trying to get out of his way, but he was making a beeline for me. And he just shouted out, "Get out of my way, you effing P word." And at the time, I kind of felt a bit shocked, but all laughed it off. But obviously, it's made a big impression on me, otherwise, I wouldn't be making this video today. So, let me tell you a bit more about this, so why it's made a big impression on me. So, my parents are from Mauritius, and I am 44 years old. I grew up in North London in the early 80s, 90s. And a lot of my identity, well, I said like mistaken identities come from where I belong. So I have never really identified with being brown, if that makes sense, even though I am brown, because I think growing up, I had a lot of shame around this being a child. So a bit more history. I grew up in North London, and a lot of my friends, so I went to a really nice school, which was a predominantly white school, black and Asian. And a lot of my friends at the time at secondary school were black. The music I liked was R&B and hip hop, and I felt like that I fitted more amongst the black community, if that makes sense. So I didn't really feel Asian or Mauritian, and so it was a bit, my identity, I think this is where my identity growing up got a little bit skewed. I just really didn't know where I fitted in. And this guy calling me the effing P word the other day made me think that I haven't been called that for such a long time, since I was at secondary school, I don't think. And it conjured up all those feelings of shame of being brown, like I never felt like I fitted in anywhere. So if you're watching this and you're from an Asian family or anything, I was probably one of the dark skinned people in my family. And my mum was fair skinned, my aunt is fair skinned, and my cousin's fair skinned. And it was almost like their little clique because they were the fair skinned one and I was a darker brown colour. So that always made me feel a bit inadequate growing up. So this is probably why I rebelled against being brown and against my family almost. So I've never really had an identity of being part of my family. And as you can tell, probably by the way I speak and my mannerisms, I actually do identify as being English, being more English now. So when I moved out of that area, I live in a predominantly white area now, and I always have like a missed identity with my race. And it wasn't until then it made me really think about what I've been doing. So I love, you know, the food and I don't speak the language. So when I was at primary school, I remember coming home from a holiday from Mauritius once, and there was one other girl in my primary school that was Mauritian, and we would speak to each other in Creole. And my teachers made a complaint to my mum, saying to her that I'd been speaking Creole in school. So I was fluent then. I was about 8 or 9, and I was fluent of Creole, like speaking Creole. And from that day on, I've never spoken it since, and I can understand, but I can't even speak the words. It's almost like when you hear Del Boy from Only Fools and Horses trying to speak French, you know what I mean, don't you? Mange two rodders, that's exactly how I feel when I try to speak Creole. It literally, the words do not come out of my mouth. And I actually now I have the shame of not being part of my Mauritian heritage, like not being part of that. I feel like I've missed out on so much of my life by trying to be a different identity, that Mauritian identity isn't part of me. So I went to Mauritius a few years ago so I'd been to Jamaica first, but I went to Mauritius to try and reignite some of my heritage. But once I got there, people wouldn't even speak to me in Creole because they didn't think that I was Mauritian. A lot of people tend to think that I'm either like Hispanic or something like that until I speak and they realise that I'm more English. But then, I say to them that I am actually from Mauritius. And well, my family like originate from Mauritius. And then people are like, oh my God, you're so exotic. So when when you start dating and things like that, people were like, oh my God, you're like an exotic goddess and everything, you're from Mauritius. And you know, that's when I try to have some sort of form of identity to my Mauritian roots, but I really don't. And I think the shame, I do actually have some shame of my background and my heritage. And I've always tried to, when I went to Mauritius, try to reignite that. But still, I didn't really feel part of that then either. So it's kind of, I feel really lost with my heritage. And being called the P word the other day made me feel like, you know, growing up in the 80s and the 90s as a brown girl, particularly in the 90s, when you go into the shops and they don't even have foundation to suit your skin tone, like, you know, at the time it was mainly white foundation, like you didn't even have darker skin tones at the time. That made me feel really like, where do I belong here? I don't know where I belong. You know, I felt really, really lost. Like I felt like an English girl with brown skin. I hated having brown skin at the time too, and now I'm always tanning because I want my skin to get darker and darker. Like I love being brown, but I think I felt like I didn't belong anywhere. Like obviously I wasn't black, I was brown, but didn't want to be part of the Asian community because I felt like I didn't want to be called the P word or anything, could be amongst that. I mean, I'm definitely not white, but then also as an adult and having like white friends, they really think that you're white because you speak like them, and they will say racial things in front of you and think it's completely acceptable because you speak like them, but really you're not. You know, I'm brown and I have been on the receiving end of racial like comments and stuff from people. I remember one year, like when I was working as an EA, I was called into this meeting and I looked around the board table and they were all like, you know, middle-aged white men, and they've called me into the meeting. And I was like, why on earth have you called me into this meeting? Apart from taking minutes or something, I'm not meant to be here. And I wasn't taking minutes in this particular meeting. The reason why they called me into that meeting, because it was about D&I, diversity and inclusion. They wanted to have that token brown person in the room. And that's one of the only times that this happened as an adult to me. But I kind of really didn't know why, and I still to this day don't know why, but it was a D&I inclusive meeting, and that's why they got me in there, to find out my opinions on certain things. But you know, the majority of the office were white people, so I don't know where I'm going with this right now. So I'm hoping that one of you or any of you can resonate with what I'm saying here. All these things that have, like, I've never, you know, thought, oh, racism, poor me. Like I've never actually thought of racism as being a problem for me because, like I said, I hadn't been called the P word since I was at school. I remember getting on a bus and people calling me the P word when I'm hanging around with like loads of black girls, and actually saying to them, me being a gobby teenager, no, I'm not, I'm from Mauritius, not from Pakistan and stuff. But people didn't understand that, and people were ignorant. And I really hope, but obviously there's less and less of it now, but I kind of feel like maybe all the things that are going on with the news, everything else, there's going to be more racism going on now, and it's quite scary to think that that might be a thing again. I really hope it's not. And if you can, you know, I'm just sort of saying random things in this video, hoping that someone can actually resonate with me, because it was kind of hard growing up as a teenager in the 90s and trying to find out where you belong in this world. And I think, you know, I'm a 44-year-old woman now, and I think I'm still trying to work out where I belong. I'm not really part of any kind of like Mauritian communities or anything. Like I said, I feel like an imposter in the Mauritian community, because I kind of feel like even though my parents are from there, I don't feel like I'm from there. I relate more to being English, but then I'm not. And like I said just now, like when you've got friends that think that you are a white girl with a tan, when I'm not, I am actually a brown girl that actually has, you know, foreign heritage. And that is me, that is like that, but I am very, very English, and I feel like I could look a lot of shame with not being part of that. And maybe I need to find my roots and be part of that, and maybe travel more and get in contact with more of my family and find out more about it. Like I'm not religious. When I was about 8, my mum decided to start being more religious again. I don't relate with that at all. Like I'm not religious at all, and I don't think, like, I'm spiritual now, but I don't think, and I believe in God, but not you know, a particular God or anything like that. And I'm not you know, part of a particular religious community or anything. I just kind of go along in this world and do my own thing, I guess. If you can resonate with this video, if you found any of this useful, or can, you know, you felt similar growing up, let me know, because it'd be really useful to know that I'm not the only one out there. In case you don't know, my name is Sheena. I make these YouTube videos. Originally it was all about coaching, but they're more stories about my life now, I guess. Yeah, and that's me really. I hope you like this video. If you can, subscribe for more videos like this. Hopefully I'll be posting more. Okay, have a great day. I hope you've enjoyed this video.